Hey, all right. So I want to talk to you about something that I talk about with pretty much all of my clients when we first start working together. I think this is something that comes up for pretty much every new entrepreneur and is sort of a hang up that many of us have. I know that for me, when I first started my business, I was definitely uncomfortable with my prices and exactly what I was charging for and really what I noticed is that I felt like, at my jobs previously, I was selling products or I was selling, something tangible. But as soon as I started working for myself, it really started to feel like I was selling myself. And I think something about that transition started to feel a little bit uncomfortable. And maybe it's something that a lot of us are not used to. Maybe you're used to selling yourself, maybe you're not. And so I want to talk to you a little bit about the mindset hacks that I use with my clients in order to actually increase your prices if that's something that you know you're ready to do but don't totally feel confident doing it yet. And also, before we get into that, actually, I want to talk a little bit about the biggest mistake that I see entrepreneurs making. And I see this kind of going around the internet quite a bit. There's many cute memes about it. And that is coaches and people telling us to charge your worth or charge what you're worth or know your worth, then add tax. There's a lot of cute things going around. But I think that this is the reason that a lot of us start getting really, really hung up because, you start your business and you're like, well, maybe I'm worth more than $400, you know? And here's what I want to tell you, like, your worth has nothing to do with the price of your program. It's absolutely insane to make the two interrelated in any way whatsoever. Yes, if you're not confident in your products and services, then maybe you're more likely to price them low. However, I'm going to go ahead and assume that you have a sick product. You know that what you offer and the transformation that you provide for your clients is awesome. It's just a matter of feeling confident with your pricing. So first of all, your value is intrinsic, has nothing to do with how much money you make or how expensive your programs are. So let's get that out of the way first and foremost. And maybe like you need to, hypnotize yourself a little bit to get that out of your brain of like charge your worth because it's irrelevant. Also, what about the guy who invented like zippers or Velcro or whatever, and he sells them for 25 cents, but he's a billionaire? Do you think he's worth 25 cents? Like it's all confusing. So no, this has nothing to do with your worth. But what it does have to do with is the value of your transformation. So first thing that I like to do with my clients is number one, I like to take their temperature, and maybe you want to do this with yourself too. So I'll ask them, we'll be talking about pricing, and maybe they'll say to me, I really want to increase my prices, or I don't know what to charge at all. And I say, just throw a number out there at me. What are you considering right now? And this is kind of how I take their temperature. So I want to know when you're like asking yourself, what should I price my program? What's the number that first comes to your mind? Is it $700? Is it $1,500? We all have this different internal, like temperature, and I want to know yours right off the bat. And so that's kind of gives you this baseline to start with. Then the second thing that you want to do is you want to think about the actual transformation that somebody can have working with you. And so this is not just like the transformation of hanging out with you. This is the transformation within the container that you've created. So let's say you've created a 3-month-long program. So number one, you're holding somebody accountable to that transformation for 3 months. Number two, are you providing resources, workbooks, video trainings, anything like that? Number three, are you giving them, meal plans or some kind of guided process or method that you're taking them through? Hint, you definitely should have your own process that you take people through. That's how you get people the best transformation, and therefore that's how you can charge higher prices. So you want to start thinking about all of those things and thinking about the value of each one of those things. Then what I like to do, if you're still hung up, is I like to figure out what your hourly wage is. So start breaking down everything you do in this program. So creating the workbooks, recording videos for them, getting on the call with them to have your weekly sessions. Maybe you check in with them 5 times a week in, Slack or wherever you check in with people. All of these things. What are the things all the things that you do. Maybe you send emails every day to them. Maybe you check in via text. Like, I don't know the way your program is structured, but I want you to break down each one of those things that you do and how long it takes you to do. Maybe if you're like a copywriter, you're reviewing people's work, or you're actually writing for them, start writing down like how long do these things take me? And I want you to be really realistic here. So don't over exaggerate, and also don't um, undervalue how long things usually take you. And consider this on like your worst day, how long do these things take you? Maybe not your worst day actually, but like, on an average week, how long do these things take you? Not the days when you're like on fire, the days when you are at your normal capacity. So consider how long each one of those things takes you, and then add up all of those hours and divide the price that you currently are charging, or the number that you threw out there when I said, hey, what's the number that first comes to your mind? Divide that by how many hours that's going to take. So let's say you work with someone for 3 months, you get on a call with them for an hour every single week. So there's 12 hours already. It takes you approximately another hour each week to do all of their stuff. So that's 24 hours. And then so you divide your price, $1,000 divided by 24, let's say. Don't judge me, I'm going to use my calculator. So now you see that your hourly wage is $41.6 an hour. So let's say $41 an hour. Is that what you want to be making per hour? What's your dream income? What's your dream wage? Like if you were to work for the company that is your business, what would you want to be making per year? Because we do have a finite number of hours every single week. And so you want to be considering, how much time am I putting in for this service, and what am I making per hour? And this is really interesting because you might start to think like, oh, that's actually, not that much. I'm putting in a lot of work for this program. And maybe number one, you start considering, all right, what are some ways that I can start to systematize these things? What are some ways that I can start to put some automations in place so that I don't actually have to show up for each one of these hours, or so I'm not doing repetitive tasks? But also you're starting to see really how long it takes you when you work with a client. So that's number one, figure out your hourly wage. And then number two, start to consider, what's the transformation that they're going to have worth to them? So if you are a nutritionist who helps people eliminate their anxiety through the right foods, how much is it worth to someone to completely eliminate their anxiety? What do you think their willingness to pay is to eliminate their anxiety? Start to consider that into your number as well. And so once you have a couple of these like data points, it stops feeling less like a number that you're pulling out of thin air and just being like, yeah, now I charge $2,000 and I have no idea why, but I just typed that number into PayPal and now that's what I charge. This is giving you some real hard data on how long you're spending and how much your transformation is worth. And you can put those two things together to start to create a really realistic number that feels good to you. So write that number down and then take your temperature on that number again. So then practice yourself pitching that number. And another thing that you can do, and I highly recommend doing, is having the number that you're confident in pitching right now and the number that you'd eventually like to get to. So let's say you add all these things up and you're like, you know what, this program is actually worth $3,000. But as of right now, I've been charging $1,000, and I do not feel comfortable on my next sales call saying that this program is going to be $3,000. I know for a fact I'm going to be crapping my pants, and I'm not going to feel confident selling that. Don't. Because if you're not confident saying the numbers, I know you won't close that sale. Like more often than not, it really has to come from your belief in that number and your delivery of it. So what you can say is, all right, I've been charging $1,000 now. I know I want to eventually get to $3,000. I'm going to go ahead and up that to $1,500, have a couple sales calls, close a couple clients at that new price point, and then maybe I'll take my temperature again and increase it to $2,000. And then after I close a couple people there, I'll increase it to $3,000. And then maybe by the time you're there, you'll be adding more stuff to your program, and eventually you'll be feeling confident increasing your prices even more, or maybe not. Because one other thing that you definitely do want to consider is the median price point in your industry of these offers. And that's not to say that you have to charge what everyone else is charging, but you don't want to keep that in mind, because if you're way lower or way higher than the average person who's offering the same product that you're offering, it might start to affect the way that people see your offer in relation to theirs. So for example, if everybody else is charging way more to work with them to work with a nutritionist for 3 months, and they see your program's only $1,000, they might start to think like, well, how is she promising all of these incredible things but only charging 1,000 when everyone else is charging 5,000, right? Like it might start to cause them to question how much value you're actually putting into the program. But also, if you're charging 5,000 and somebody can go see a nutritionist for 500, you better have some like solid cred and transformations behind you in order for that to feel like an incredible investment for somebody coming across your sales page or coming across your work. Both are definitely possible and both are being done, but just definitely keep that in mind. So these are the ways that I help my clients find a price point that feels really good for them and also create that range that they can start with and where they want to move to in order to hit those income goals. One last thing actually that I want you to consider is I want you to think about, what do I want to be making per month? So let's say you want to be making 10K months. I know so many people who are like, I want to make 10K months. And your program is currently $500. Think about how many clients you have to have in order to hit a 10K month with a program that costs $500, right? And ask yourself, do I have, now that I know how long each client takes me, do I have the bandwidth and the capacity to actually take on all of those clients in order to hit the income goal that I want? And you want to ask yourself, right, if I want to have a 10K month and I want to have, 5 clients per month, what do I need to charge in order to hit that target? And once you've done that, let's say you realize that you want to charge $2,000 per client. I want you to ask yourself, how can I make the transformation in the program that I'm creating worth $2,000 or actually worth $4,000 so that I can get on that call, close them on $2,000, knowing full well they're going to get $4,000 worth of transformation, and I'm going to feel really, really good closing those sales because I know that it's going to blow their, it's going to really knock their socks off once they actually go through this transformation. So those are a couple ways that I use to help my clients price their programs. That's how I price my programs, and maybe that will help you. That little mindset hack will help you feel more confident raising your prices if you know you're ready to do that, and move to that higher level and start hitting those income targets that I know you have. All right, let me know your new price point that you want to charge in the comments if you if you dare, and I'll see you in the next video.